Static from somebody.
Yeah, you go to audio settings, and then you can raise
Microphone volume.
the output level. Yeah, volume, speaker, right, John? Speaker volume.
What happened with my audio? Oh, there we go.
No, there you go.
Let me just see. Oh, we're starting.
Hi everyone, welcome to Queen's Conversations.
Today on Queen's Conversations, we celebrate Women's History Month with our special guests, Colette Smith, Believe in You founder and president. She was the first NFL African-American female coach and the first female coach in the New York Jets franchise history. Lucille Cavalos, former Queens College faculty member. She's a pioneering women's basketball coach. And Malapande. She's the principal of the Young Women's Leadership School of Queens. And now, Queen's Conversations.
Hi everyone, welcome to Queen's Conversations. My name is Lucia Dragos.
I'm John Collins.
And I am Narayan Omar.
And by now you know who our guests are from the video you just saw. Welcome to our guests.
Thank
Welcome,
you. Thanks
everyone.
for having us. I appreciate being. It's good to see a lot. I know everybody on this segment right now, so I'm really happy today now.
Well, happy International Women's Day. International Women's Day.
Women history.
Women's History Month. So let's start. John?
Colette, what first got you interested in football? It must go back some time for you.
Yeah, I was just a kid that loves football. Like there's no rhyme or reason. I just gravitated towards football, and I just always wanted to play, and I was never allowed to play because of my gender. So I was always X'd out of a game. So of course in the streets I played with the kids because that wasn't organized football. I just beat the kids up and played football with them. So, but there were no organized football teams for me to be allowed to play on. So I just love football.
And then you went on to play pro football, women's pro football. What was that like?
Yeah, that was the highlight of my life. I've never been happier. I think just talking about it, I'm probably glowing. I started playing. It was exhilarating, but yeah, I didn't start playing until I was 42 years old. So I didn't think I was going to make the team, but when I figured, let me go out to tryouts to just experience it, to see women playing a sport that the world told us we were not allowed to. I owed it to myself to see women doing this. When I got out there, John, and I saw all these women playing football with full equipment on, helmets and pads and coaches yelling at them, I said, I am making this team today. So
Great.
I did.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, Principal Pandey, it is such a pleasure to speak with you as a graduate of the Young Women Leadership School of Astoria. I wanted to know, thank you. I wanted to know what inspired you to actually be a principal at an all-girls school.
Well, I just have to say thanks for having me, and I need to borrow some of Colette's energy. That's insane energy. I really need my young women to meet her. But congratulations to you. I hope your Twills education is serving you well, and clearly it is. I mean, similar to Colette, I was just a kid that loved being a teacher. I played teacher. I had really, really good teachers. I went to New York City schools, PS 82, 217, Martin Van Buren, and I was always around teachers that inspired me in some way, shape, or form. And I'll be very blunt. There were people that did things that I would remind myself, I'll never do that. And that's a good memory to have. And there were folks that drove me and empowered me. And I kept thinking, I want to do that. So I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, just 2 blocks away from this school. And it came full circle. I was a science teacher out in Brooklyn, an assistant principal out in Flushing. And I got a call about this principalship. And I thought to myself, this must be a sign. How often do you get a career call that's 2, street lights away from where you grew up? And I've always been, as a minority leader in my school, I've always been attracted to the data around girls' education. And so I'm at a 6 through 12 and I'm living the dream. I am just so excited and passionate about the rigor of our school, the reputation of our school, the fact that 100% of our young people are accepted to the college of their choice. I am just so proud of this work. And I think it's my inner passion. I think it's kind of like knowing the purpose of goodness in the world and wanting to give back. So I would say that I owe a lot of my decision making to the educators that I've had in my public school experience.
Great.
Lucille, question to you. Now, can you share what influenced your career and how did you decide to go into sports? Basketball. I don't hear you.
Lucia,
Yes,
can you hear me now?
it's very low, but I can hear you.
Okay. I'll speak loud. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this program. And I was always a very active kid, and I learned all my movement fundamentals on my street in Astoria, where I grew up. And moving and playing games and sports and that sort of thing really defined me. It was an ability that I had. My mother wasn't too happy about it, but my father was good about it. And he was very encouraging. And I learned how to play the game of basketball. And from that point on, sport gave me a sense of confidence and ability that I was playing against boys all the time. So I really learned the fundamentals on the streets. And when I got to teach and coach, I saw that at that particular time, there were no really competitive programs for girls in high schools. And I had to develop a program at Queens College, essentially with inexperienced women, in terms of their fundamentals. They had to learn how to change direction and jump and have physical contact under the boards. So it was a very, I always wanted to give back in the sense that the opportunities that I didn't have, because I was born in the age of the Depression. I feel like a dinosaur on this program, but so I wanted to offer opportunities for other young girls and women, because I knew how important what a sport experience, a training experience could do to your self-confidence and to your striving. And the concept of from locker room to boardroom is a very important concept. And that's one of the reasons why I coached and why I did what I did at Queens College.
Colette, when we left you, you were passionately banging heads with your fellow female footballers. What motivated you to try out for the coaching position when so many other women had not been successful?
Well, which coaching position? The one with my women's team or the Jets?
No, with the Jets. With the Jets. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, John, it's interesting that I didn't try out. I didn't seek out to be a coach in the NFL. It was not part of my agenda because it wasn't part of my life or my childhood. I never was allowed to have that dream to one day be a coach in the NFL if I wasn't allowed to even play football as a young girl. So I just was coaching my women's team after I retired. I retired at the ripe early age of 45 from playing pro football. And I started coaching my women's team. And I then got appointed to do their marketing, PR, promotions, and events. So I took that job on seriously and full-heartedly because I just wanted to have more attention to women in sports. And so I called up, of course, my favorite team in the whole world, the New York Jets. And I started
Jets.
Jets, Jets. I just started calling them up and saying, hey, you guys have sisters in women's pro football with us. And I just kept making these phone calls, and I made myself, I think I was moving strategically about placement for this women's pro football team. And I got the attention of somebody in the front office at the New York Jets. And he invited me to a private Jets practice. And I thought to myself, well, what's that going to do for my team? And then I said, wow, wait a minute. I could learn to be a better coach for my women watching this pinnacle level of coaching in the NFL to bring back to my women. And when I got there, I met the head coach of the New York Jets, and we started talking. And I told him a few things about what I think his players should be doing. And so it just kind of evolved. I was appointed by God. God put me in a certain position to win for myself and to win for other women. So it just kind of happened organically, John.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, honestly, you opened the door for opportunities of women that didn't know that it was available before. And Principal Mala, actually, I wanted to refer to you. I know the Young Woman Leadership School hosts a lot of amazing events to build young girls' confidence, closing gaps in the gender field. So I wanted to refer to you. What is the most exciting events that you guys have hosted to inspire young women?
So there are a variety of events. I think that the biggest event is really what's happening on the day-to-day in a classroom, right? Like that's at the nucleus of this work. That's the event for me. Everything else is icing on the cake. But we have extremely innovative, caring, and empathetic leaders in the classroom. So that is the main event. But all of the other events that we have are always linked to one or more of the pillars of our school. We're always promoting leadership opportunities. Girls are aware of their brands. They know how to market it. They understand their voice. We are a huge proponent of STEM opportunities. There are many internships that we offer our young people locally and within the other boroughs. Early college and career access. There are a number of college virtual visits that are happening and partnerships that are happening around the college process with older girls speaking to younger girls. In a 6 through 12, I have 7 years of experience right here. And what we are also thinking a lot about is, especially understandably so as women, health and wellness during this time. We've got a lot of young girls who are mothering at home with younger siblings, holding down jobs, translating for their parents. So we are really being very diligent about understanding our emotions at this time, naming it, gauging it, and making sure that there are opportunities for them to have therapeutic, consultations with trusted adults in our school. And more importantly, giving them space to connect together. So although we are in a limited situation with events, I'm going to really harp on the fact that what we've got going on in every single classroom is quite eventful enough.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that young women face in this day and age? If you have to say one thing.
Yeah, that's a big question. I would say being fully aware to own your mental health. A lot of our young people are pushed by social feeds and their families to keep it moving, keep your eye on education. And I'm really clear that an education will give me financial security, but that coupled with a healthy mindset is what will help you thrive and take Black and brown excellence to the next level. Financial security is easy to come and go. And, we know lots of people with very high level degrees, but lack interpersonal skills and lack their own, just mental awareness. So I'm pushing hard and really hoping that our young people are willing to own their own, willing to own their feelings, not rush them, not push them, not, dismiss them. That's big for me.
That's a very interesting response. I love that.
Mhm.
That's great. Yeah. And I want to ask Lucille, can you describe the feeling that you got when you led the team to Madison Square Garden? That's a legendary venue and a mecca for baseball. So,
Well, this
in
was,
which year was that?
well, that was a major event in the mid-70s. It was actually 1970.
I can't hear you well.
It was actually in 1975, and it was a major turning point for women competing in collegiate basketball, actually, because it presented a model to the rest of the country. the we drew over 12,000 spectators in Madison Square Garden, which was an astounding number for the time, and the results, ricocheted all over the country, from Hawaii to Texas to Maine, and it changed the approach of collegiate of women playing team sports. Actually, it was a model. It presented itself. We presented a model that young women could, in fact, compete at a high level without breaking down and crying, and having all the stereotypes thrown at us before. We show that we're competitive and competent, and it was a very exciting event. I remember walking in and into the garden, and the stands were filling up, and both teams went to their individual baskets to warm up their layups and their passes and whatever, and all of a sudden the lights dimmed, and over the sound speaker we heard Helen Reddy singing "I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar," and the place went berserk. It was just so tingling, and there were young women, young kids there from high school with their parents and their brothers and their sisters and whatever. It was just thrilling, and it was an event to really memorialize, you might say, the whole beginning of competitive women's basketball at a high level. After the fact, I found out that Billie Jean King was there to watch the game, but she
My
didn't
goodness.
the focus on her, so she went up in the boonies up there in Madison Square Garden to watch this game. So it was a very thrilling event, actually, and memorable.
Colette, you've been a passionate player, you've been a coach, and a very good one. Now you're not drifting, now you're also getting involved with motivational speaking. What is the organization that you're president of?
Oh, so I founded my organization called Believe in You Incorporated.
Right.
And Believe in You Incorporated came to be because I remember calling my father, telling my dad that, Dad, would you believe the Jets head coach asked me to work for his organization? And I was calling my father. I was so happy, but it was like I couldn't believe it. This is a male-dominated industry, and it's a head coach is telling me that I work there. And I called my dad, proud, excited, but my dad said, I'm listening to some doubt. And my dad said, I can't believe you. I can't believe that. I'd be more proud of you if you believed it, instead of calling me as if it isn't supposed to happen. And that when my father said that to me, it really resonated. And I thought, imagine if I really truly believed in me, and what can that do for girls? What can that do for Black and brown communities, minority communities that are underserved? And I said, I've got to hit the ground running with a company to empower them, to show change. Sometimes if you can see it, you can be it. And so my plan was to use my platforms to empower. So Believe in You, Believe in You, Believe in You came to fruition for that, for me wanting to give a gift, for me getting a gift, and from my father and wanting to share that with other girls.
Very good.
Honestly, Colette Smith, you have inspired me from the day that I've met you, and you made me believe in myself. And honestly, I am so honored that you actually went to my school and spoke to other young girls to inspire them too. Principal Malapande, what is a piece of advice that you would give to the young girls that are in the Young Women Leadership School who are watching us? And what is a struggle that you saw that they were struggling with in comparison to the other schools you have taught at?
Repeat the last question. Compared to the other students that I had.
So you mentioned that you were on a journey of teaching in other schools and there was a process of that. Is there a difference in being a principal of an all-girls school and teaching in another school?
Okay, so a piece of advice that I would and consistently give my young people: follow your passion. You may not know what it is, you may not be certain of it, but it is somewhere whispering inside of you if it's not screaming as yet. And so listen to yourself. Just listen to yourself and everything will fall into place. And so at our school, we just really encourage young people to take unique courses, meet unique people, because you never know. To your point, you listening to Colette inspired you, right? You remember that moment. So listening to yourself as you are on this journey is important. I would say that being a leader of an all-girls school is different in that one of the major push points is around your confidence. I think that when I speak to young men and I speak to young women, there is a difference in delivery that I can't quite put my finger on the why. There's a lot of research out there, but there is definitely doubt that enters a young girl's mind, consistently weaving in and out from middle to high school. Doubt in, am I giving my best in this course? You know, am I good enough for this current partner that I'm dating? Am I doing a good enough job? And they rise in different areas of conversation, or they showcase themselves differently with the student's behavior. But it's great to be in a sisterhood where one of the major themes is that we uplift each other. That's a great piece of this work. There's always an older sister who's able to pair up with a younger sister. And I think that that is really one of the major differences I've seen thematically between co-ed settings and single gender settings. But one of the things that I know is an area that I never, ever have to really instigate a lot of effort toward is voice. In an all-girls setting, young women seem to be able to speak up very naturally and organically, and they're able to participate in science and math courses differently compared to co-ed settings. So that's a great highlight of a single gender school at the Young Women's Leadership.
I have a question for Lucille, or well, actually for all of you, maybe your thoughts. There's a bill that is proposed, HJR 53, which if passed, will transgender youth will not be able to play teams to match their gender, but rather playing teams based on their sex assigned by birth. What are your thoughts on that? Having spent many years in sports, what would that affect? How would that affect young girls and boys that identify with a gender different than the one they're born with? Lucille, you're muted.
Yeah, that I'm disappointed.
There's some static. If you can hold still, the laptop will be better. Okay.
I'm very disappointed in that piece of legislation.
And I can't hear you. I hear you very low.
What I'm saying is I'm very disappointed in that legislation. I do not agree with it. I've had the experience myself as an adult after I retired from.
Can you speak a little louder? I still can't hear you well.
After I retired, I was playing a lot of tournaments, tennis tournaments, and one doubles tournament that I entered. We were advancing in the tournament, and we came upon our next opponents, and one of them was a transsexual woman, and she was 6'3", had a lot of power, broad shoulders, very strong, and it was very intimidating. And I never thought that was another burden that women now have to handle. I mean, to compete against biological boys who may have been developed up until 16 and then transgendered, or even at a younger age. And I don't think it's fair. I do not agree with that the legislation at all, and I'm very disappointed with it.
Colette, what do you think? We have few minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we're messing with kids' minds. You know, we're telling our children to be free and to be yourself, and then we have adults taking that away from them. I don't think it's fair at all. It isn't fair. That's my position on that.
Principal.
Yeah, I guess on a philosophical note, who determines what is a person's truth, right? And then to put them in a box or a category. We're an all-girls school. We have students who identify as non-binary. Who has this prestige of saying that someone may not participate when chasing their truth?
Yeah, right on, Principal Mala. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. We have John, you're muted.
For Women's History Month, we wanted to honor and recognize the importance of the trans community in the fight against sexism and to thank them for their work as human rights activists.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave you with this video tribute to the life and work of advocate Lorena Borjas.
Coronavirus recently claimed the life of Lorena Borjas, a 57-year-old transgender Jackson Heights resident. Lorena moved to the U.S. when she was 21. As a sex worker and trafficking survivor, Lorena dedicated her adult life to providing her transgender companions and gay immigrant men with information, advice, food, and medical supplies. She worked as an educator at community health centers across the city and was an advocate and activist for the transgender and immigrant communities. If you would like to learn more about Lorena, you can view a QPTV documentary about her life at qptv.org/queensstories.
And with that, we end today's show. Bye. Thanks to our guests.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Happy Women's History Month.
Happy Women's History Month every day.
Today on Queen's Conversations, we celebrate Women's History Month with our special guests, Colette Smith, Believe in You founder and president. She was the first NFL African-American female coach and the first female coach in the New York Jets franchise history. Lucille Cavalos, former Queens College faculty member. She is a pioneering women's basketball coach. And